Hi, it's Dr. Steve from Misericordia University, and welcome to an exploration of artificial intelligence in the arts. In this video, let's start by considering how to write a good, solid, effective prompt that will prompt an AI tool to generate some better quality output. Second, let's take a look at some ideas of how you could possibly use AI while working to integrate music into your classroom. And then let's finish by looking at some ideas as to how you could maybe use AI while working to integrate art into your classroom. Important part of trying to retrieve some positive output from any AI tool depends on what you put into it. So the quality of output directly depends on the quality of your input. So prompt writing is an essential skill. To write clear, specific, and well-structured prompts are really key to unlocking the potential of AI tools and make them work for you. To write a good prompt, you should consider the following four components of a well-structured prompt. Two of these are really required. The other two, they can be very helpful, but at times maybe you don't need to include them. Let's take a brief look at them. First is the task. So this is the heart of what we're doing. What do you want the AI tool to perform for you? Be very specific and use action verbs. Another thing that's absolutely required is the format. How do you want the output to be formatted? What are you looking to receive as the output from the AI tool? A third component is the role. Again, you may or may not utilize this depending on the nature of what you're asking the tool to provide for you. But think about specifying the voice you want. In other words, in the style of somebody or something, or act as if you were a certain person or in a certain role. And the fourth would be context and constraints. So give some background information. Now, this background information will provide the context for the generated response, and the constraints will specify boundaries or limits for the output. Let's take a better look at each of these components before we consider how AI is being used currently in the arts. The task is the basic instruction. This is the heart of what we're doing in a prompt. This is what you want the AI tool to perform for you. So be very specific and lead the tool to know what you're looking for. Make sure that you use action-oriented verbs. Format is also critical. If you do not specify to an AI tool what format you want the output to be appearing like, then you're taking a big chance. You're rolling the dice, as it were. Now, if you tell it you want an essay or a spreadsheet or a chart, maybe you'd like a PowerPoint presentation. Maybe you'd like it to generate a video. For teachers, maybe we'd like to see it develop a lesson plan. In the arts, maybe we would like it to develop words for a piggyback song. The format is very important. Oftentimes overlooked when writing a prompt is this third component, role. So role will assign the AI tool a specific identity or some professional function. When you think about this, this is very important because it helps set the tone, the scope, the type of vocabulary that's used, the length of sentences, the focus of the response. So while this is overlooked, role is really a component that can add a lot of detail and focus to your AI response. So if we were to say, as part of the prompt to an AI tool, act as a tutor, or if we were saying act as a third grade student, again, you can figure that everything's going to change based on what we ask it to assume in terms of its persona. We say, assume the persona of a kindergarten teacher or write like a third grade student. If there's something that you know, like I'm a musician, so I don't want to get very generic information about music or the arts, so I would ask the AI tool to assume that it is a professional musician. That way I'm not going to waste my time receiving things that are written to the general populace who are not professional musicians. So don't overlook, when you're prompting an AI tool, don't overlook the idea of role as a component of your prompt. The fourth and final component of a well-written AI prompt is context and constraints. When we're talking about context, we're referring to background information. So when we look at how do we provide that background information, well, maybe we'll upload a source document so the AI tool can reference it. Maybe we can say something like align to Pennsylvania academic standards. So then again, that provides a lot of context to constrain that tool into certain areas that are required for what we're looking to do. Think about the audience level. Think about if we say write to high school students versus write to early childhood. Maybe we're more specific, write to second grade students. Again, you'll see the vocabulary, the length of sentence, the whole tone will change based on what audience you specify. The reading level will be different. Think of structural limits. How long do you want this to be? Maybe limit the response to 250 words or not more than 300 words, or include bullet points or include 5 key findings. In general, in the AI generative world, if you don't specify any kind of structural limits, you're opening up to a possibility of just receiving lots and lots of text. And then let's look at constraints. Constraints are the boundaries or the limits on AI's output. So think about telling AI what to do, maybe also tell it what not to do. Like in the academic world, we'll say use active voice. You may say do not use passive voice. Maybe you want the tool to include some external links or citations. Or maybe you do not want this. So again, the context and constraints can really help you structure a very good output and response, something that you can practically use. At times, the teacher will utilize specific AI-driven apps to perform very specific functions. At other times, we may look at just open general tools, such as Gemini at Google, or Copilot at Microsoft, or ChatGPT. For the purpose of this video, I'm going to stick with Gemini at Google. Let's say that your learners are having difficulty with a particular topic and you would like to reinforce the concepts better. Let's see if AI can develop a piggyback song for our class. In Gemini, I type the following prompt. Using a popular early childhood song, create words to reinforce the parts of speech for a first grade student. Notice that I did apply the role here because we're looking at the first grade student. I asked it to use a popular song, so I provided the context, and I told it what I want to have out of it. Create words to reinforce the parts of speech. So let's see what Gemini came up with. About 10 seconds later, it came back with, first of all, a positive thought for me as the teacher, saying, wow, that's a great idea. You can use kinesthetic learning, and it's great for early learners. And then it describes that it took the song, If You're Happy and You Know It, and developed it into a parts of speech song. It then provided a brief description about what the song is intended to do. It's 3 verses, and it's going to introduce 3 different parts of speech and associate physical action with those to this tune. It came up with a good song. Here's the first verse, where it's talking about nouns being person, place, or thing. And then they also gave the action and suggested what the students can do while they perform this first verse. Likewise, the second verse is working with and focusing on verbs, and they talk about the verb having an action, and it's something that you do. And notice they also suggested some actions that the students can do as they listen to this verse. And likewise, verse 3 is working and focusing in on adjectives. So, not a bad song. As a helpful extra, Gemini also provided the following teaching notes about pedagogy, about the way you could teach and use this song. They talk about the importance of the kinesthetics, about movement when you're doing the song. They talk about the importance of repetition, which we know for young learners is a very important part of learning effectively. As a final note regarding this prompt, the AI tool came out with some active vocabulary and describes to a teacher how we could possibly introduce the vocabulary and do that in conjunction with singing the song. Then I wanted to get a visual. And again, I could take the time to develop one, but since I was in Gemini and I already wrote a nice song for me, I wrote this follow-up prompt. Create a graphic that summarizes the verses of the song aimed at a first grade student. So notice I included the context and the role in there because we aim it at a first grade student. The type of graphic and infographic that will come out will be much more appropriate for that level of learner. For a graphic to be produced, it took just a little bit longer, so maybe about 20 to 30 seconds later, here's what it came up with. So first of all, it's referencing the parts of speech song. I like the graphics. I like the verbiage that's put on here. Very appropriate for first grade. Not bad. And it saved me a lot of time and also allowed me to create some additional resources that would really help my students. What other resources, what types of help could we gain from artificial intelligence? So here I provided a prompt to Gemini, and I'm asking to please provide a short bulleted list. So I don't want a huge list that's exhaustive. I just want several practical websites that offer early childhood songs. And I'm looking in particular for WAV format because I know that WAVs, as opposed to MP3s, will be accessible across platforms and they'll be free. So here we find some of the output from Gemini. It's also supporting what as a teacher I know that MP3s are a little smaller in terms of file size. However, WAV files are normally offered on royalty-free music sites. And as a teacher, that's what I want. And so it gave me that backup with thought. So I see we're on the same page. And then it provided a number of resources. So here you can see 4 resources that were provided by Gemini with a little background, a little annotation saying what's good on those sites and why it has selected those for me. And again, very usable, and it saved me a lot of time as a teacher from going out and searching for these kinds of sites. Another way that a teacher can use AI is to gain ideas about how to teach with music and the arts. In our course, we looked at a bunch of ways you can do this, but we could extend that by going to a tool like Gemini. So here's the prompt I provided. I said, provide no more than 6 practical strategies. Again, I don't want an exhaustive list. I want something that's very practical and usable. So practical strategies for integrating music into a first grade science lesson, and then I became more specific on the 4 seasons. As we said earlier in this video, the more specific you can be on your input side, the more specific and the better quality typically will come out on the output side from the AI tool. You can see the output, a number of good thoughts. And again, with anything that you read, you have to take a look at it, evaluate it, see what's going to work within your style and to meet the needs of your particular group of learners. But these are some pretty good thoughts. I love how Gemini suggested Vivaldi's 4 seasons. As we said in class, you'll recognize these different musical works, but you might just not know the names of them or the composer's name. So again, good suggestions. And I like how Gemini has provided strategies, and then it provided ideas of how you can do the integration of various aspects of music into that lesson. So again, a very good starting point. It's not the be all and end all, but it's a very good starting point to give us ideas. So generating teaching strategies with the arts is another good way of using AI. Third way you can gain assistance from AI is to help some students who are going to get frustrated because of their drawing abilities. So one tool that can help you is AutoDraw, and that's a Google product. It's an app that can take a look at what students are drawing. Now, students can also just use it to draw with no assistance. But if you select the AutoDraw tool, then it's going to recognize or attempt to recognize what a student is drawing, and then it gives you a series of choices. Like, are you trying to draw this? Like if I drew a circle, are you trying to draw like the sun? Are you trying to draw the planet Earth? And it's going to give you a bunch of suggestions, and the child can select from there and feel really good about their output. So here I was simulating a first grader, and I started to draw, and not looking too good, by the way, a snow person. So here's my snowman. And when I use the auto draw, when I drew this, then it started to make suggestions. And again, you could just use it as a regular paint program and get no suggestions. But I selected the suggestion mode, and notice all the little possibilities that appeared up top, because I'm not quite sure what I'm looking to do. Then I selected one, and then here's what it did with my drawing. So it took my drawing and then it enhanced it just a little bit more. So think about learners, maybe with special needs, who would feel better when they see this output and feel like they're getting just a little bit of assistance to improve on what they're doing. And they could feel very good, again, about the output, about the outcome of their drawing. Here's one more example. I drew the material on the left, and I tried to draw a teddy bear, and I tried to put a broom there or a rake. And again, it gave me a bunch of suggestions. And on the right, there's my finished drawing. Another really powerful use for AI in art is to help students explore different styles of art. So one way you could do this is have the student suggest some subject matter and a particular style of painting. So here I prompted Gemini, create a colorful, happy cubist painting of a dog. So I wanted to put that subject matter, but I wanted to be a happy dog. That's why I said a happy cubist painting for a first grade class. And here's what they came up with. And also, they gave a little description as to what makes it, what classifies it as a cubist painting. So to explore it a little more, let's take that same subject matter and choose another style. So here I'm prompting Gemini, create a painting of, again, a happy dog, but this time in the style of Impressionism. So there we definitely have a happy dog, and you can see those brush strokes, you can see the colors, you can see the light, you can see that mood, you get the impression of the happiness of that dog in that field, and along with a little description to further help the student understand what are the differences. To take it just a little farther, I prompted Gemini, create a painting again of the happy dog, this time in the style of Andy Warhol. And here's what it came up with. So students could explore different styles of art. This would be a great way to support and reinforce what you're teaching in the classroom with all these different styles. We said in our class that we're not directly teaching art, but what we want to do is we want to open up like a whole toolbox of possibilities to add new things that students can do, new ways of expressing themselves. And again, AI would be a great way to help students explore that more. Constructivists tell us that learning is personal, and something that's personal and meaningful to me as an individual will be something that I will understand deeper and I will remember better, because we're supporting our own building, our own constructing of knowledge. So one way to do that, instead of having the student suggest the subject matter, it would be to take that student's drawing, scan it in, and upload that to an AI tool, and then ask it once again to render that in a certain artistic style. So here I'm asking for the first grader's drawing and to render that into the style of Impressionism. So here's a very basic drawing. And again, I was this first grader doing this, simulated first grader, and I made it very basic. But here, hopefully you can see a person, you can see a tree, a cloud, and the sun. And let's see what Gemini came up with in the style of Impressionism. Well, as a student, you're going to feel really good because there's your artwork, there's the gist of what you were painting, but yet it is done in that other style. I then prompted Gemini to take that same drawing that I uploaded and now render it in a style of Rembrandt. And we know Rembrandt uses these dark colors and plays with light. So here's what the tool came up with. Finally, we could take that and we could ask AI to give us more information to help us dive in a little deeper. So my last Gemini prompt is to provide a description of the style of Rembrandt aimed at a first grade student. And I'm again asking very specifically, provide between 5 and 8 bullet points. If you don't put any parameters on your AI tool, you don't know what you're going to receive as your output. It could be just loads of text. Let's see how AI suggests describing Rembrandt's style to a first grader. And here's the output. First of all, Gemini provided a short description of Rembrandt and highlighted some of the main things. His style, he's a master of light and shadow. And then I remember I asked for between 5 and 8 bullet points. They provided 7 bullet points written specifically to the audience of a first grader. He loved to use light, and then describe it in terms that a first grader would understand. Pictures are often very dark, and we call this shadow. They mentioned about his use of warm colors and about the really thick paint that he used. They also talked about, they mentioned in his style, he liked to paint people. And as he enjoyed painting people, he told stories through his pictures, which is one of the key aspects of creating art or appreciating art that you have not created yourself. So telling stories, and in doing so, he painted a lot of self-portraits about how he looked and how he might have felt. So a whole other way you could use AI in the arts is to help children explore different styles of artwork, whether they're suggesting the subject matter, or if you're uploading a scan of their actual drawings. We can all recognize that AI is opening up a world of possibilities for the early childhood classroom. Things to reduce the workload of the teacher, but things also that will really enhance learning for the early childhood student. In review, in this video, we looked at ways to integrate AI into and support the arts being integrated into our classroom. In music, we said we could use AI to develop a piggyback song. I also developed a poster to support the learning of that song, to locate early childhood music resources, audios, and to generate teaching strategies. In the area of art, we looked at gaining a drawing assistance for students who might get frustrated when they're trying to use the art tools. And we can do a whole lot with AI in exploring styles of art to provide subject matter and the style, and see that actually come into creation. Or you can upload a child's drawing and then have them render it in different styles, because that's very personal, and people will remember that, understand it better. And in the process, we can help students learn what makes an artist's style unique. I encourage you to keep exploring artificial intelligence and see how it can make your classroom even better. To support that, and to help us process this information a little deeper after having seen this video, I'm going to prompt you to contribute briefly to an online discussion. First, what are your thoughts or comments on ways to use AI in the arts? Were you surprised by its capabilities? Were you did you get new ideas about what you could maybe use it for? So give us your thoughts. And second, navigate to an AI tool and try a prompt regarding art or music. So think of something that could help you in incorporating arts into your classroom. See what the output is, and then tell us, what did you learn? What did you gain? How could you use it and enhance your classroom better? And by contributing this to an online discussion board, we'll all see what each other's learnings are. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this brief exploration of artificial intelligence in the arts.